I'm Hilary, a mom in Oklahoma, and I am in the middle of a thunderstorm.
And I'm Hannah, a stay-at-home mom in Texas. Spoiler alert, I love triangles.
And this is the Don't You Two Read podcast. And hi, we're so glad that we're off to a great start. We're so glad that you're here. Today, Hannah gave a little spoiler. We're going to be talking about love triangles. So last week we did, what did we do, Hannah?
Insta love.
Insta love. And now we're doing love triangles. So I'm kind of feeling all these tropes. It's been fun. So, anyway, you guys have to let us know what tropes you want us to talk about next. But for today, it's love triangles. And so, Hannah, how has your reading been first?
I mean, okay, it's been a long series of 3 stars, or like three, 3.5, three, three, three. But then I picked up Into the Drowning Deep, which you talked about, and I've been hesitant because I don't know, I might get scared. I don't know why. Why do I have this idea that I'm a scaredy cat? Because I don't ever get scared. The only book that ever scared me was the one about the California state killer. Any other book has not scared me. So I need to let that go of me being a scaredy cat. So anyway, hesitant, but I was like, I'm doing it because I'm not loving anything. And I also was telling Josh that I've been like chasing the Jurassic Park feeling ever since I read that book, and I'm like, everything has let me down. So I decided to try that one, Into the Drowning Deep, and I really liked it. I was like, oh yeah, this was what I needed. This was good. So that was a win.
Yeah, good. I'm not I am and I'm not surprised. Like I told you when I first started it, right? I was like, this is like Into the Drowning Deep, like Jurassic Park. I felt
Yeah,
like they had
yeah.
similar vibe, like science-y vibes, I guess. And so I'm glad you liked it. I guess why I was hesitant to recommend it to you. Well, first when I read it, it was like 2 years ago. And I feel like that's when you were in the middle of your only read romance time.
Mhm.
And then, but it does get violent at the end.
I mean, it's
Like,
kind of violent throughout.
yeah, they call it horror. And I was like, I wasn't afraid though. So, like, when I think of horror, I think afraid. And I'm like, I was never afraid. But
Yeah, yeah.
but it does get violent, so that's why I'm like, don't read it unless you are okay with violence, like graphic violence. But
Yeah.
I really like that one. I thought it was like the perfect summer book.
Yeah, it was good. So I felt like that was a win. Yeah, it was good. How about you?
And I finished our book club book, Relic. We'll talk about that later, guys. um, but yeah, I'm glad I read it. And then I don't know, I love that feeling of what do I start now? Like a blank slate. I love it.
That's so funny because I hate that feeling.
Really?
Yes, like I was literally talking to one of my book friends about this like a few weeks ago. I was like, this is why I typically have more than one book going at a time. So like I have different genres. So I will normally have like a light read, which is like a romance, and then I have whatever the other one may be, whether that be fantasy or whether that be like thriller or whatever. Whenever it happens, sometimes it does, where I finish one and then I'm like, okay, I'm just focusing on the next one. And then if I have none, like I'm done and I'm at a blank slate, I get so overwhelmed and I'm like, I don't know. I don't want, I can't make a decision. Book slump. There I go. Because I'm like, I don't even know where to, like, what to choose.
Which is funny because I usually only read one book at a time. And so I have that feeling very often.
I think a lot of people do. And do you take time, like when you finish a book, do you like don't read the rest of that day? Or like how quick is your turnaround to pick another book?
I do usually that day. I just like when I get like I'm starting to finish the other book, I'm like, what am I gonna read next? What
Mm.
do I feel like? And I'm like, look at this stuff. Isn't it neat? So I'm like going through all my books, like my Kindle and my shelves, and I'm like, what seems good next? So yeah, I love it. I feel like we could just do a whole episode on that too.
Yeah.
But before we go in too deep, like make a note of that. Put a note for future. Okay, so let's get into love triangles. I'm excited about this one. This has been on my list to talk about for a while. Yeah, last week was insta love for you because I was like, I need to know why Hannah hates this so much or why she said. And then this one, I don't know. I just think it's interesting. I guess I think it's interesting because I I tend to like them, like to neutral. I don't dislike them, but I feel like a lot of people don't like them. So that's why I thought it was interesting,
Yeah.
an interesting topic. So let's talk about what you like your research.
I'm so shocked because Insta-love had much less of a aversion than love triangles. And I would not expect that. Okay, so a love triangle is when you have a main character and then you have two love interests. Now, it kind of changes. Like, some people were like, well, it's when the main character likes both of those. Like, the main character feels feelings for two different people. Other people said, well, they don't necessarily have to feel feelings for both. It could be they have feelings for one, and then you have another person who has feelings for them. So I don't know. Whichever way you look at it, we have like 3 points. I mean, hopefully we don't have more than three, is what I'm thinking. But yes, so some people said they love them. Some people said they hate them. Something I thought was really funny was that a lot of people said, I only like them if they're done well. But then what they say qualifies as doing it well, everybody had a different definition. So one person said, oh, I only like a love triangle if there's no obvious correct choice. So, like, both are contenders, and you don't know who the main character is going to pick. Like, that's what they consider a good love triangle. And then you had other people saying, no, a good love triangle is when you know clearly, like, there is a clear front runner who who's the end game. And if it's not clear, then it's gross. We don't like it. So everybody kind of had different standards of like what you like in a love triangle, what you don't. Like, where's the line? When does it get gross? So many things. I had so many responses. But what do you think? What are your thoughts about love triangles in general?
I guess I don't I'm not the worst person for these topics, honestly, because I feel like no matter what we talk about, I'm going to be okay with most stuff, you know? I like most things. I think they're fun. I think they're exciting. And like what if I see that it references that, I'm not like averse to it at all. Um yeah, I don't know. But I can see both. I think there's two different types of like love triangles, if that makes sense. Like one would be, yes, like she's trying to I'm assuming we're talking about a girl usually, but well, whatever.
Why is it only women? There was like
Yeah,
every example I have, I'm assuming it's because
it's
women
a
are writing
woman
it
for
and
women.
women are reading it. And think
Yeah.
about it. Think about it hard. Do you want to read a
Mm-hmm.
book about two women pining for a man and he can't make up his mind?
Uh-huh. No, that's I mean,
The one I can think of, The Selection. I did think that one.
that's a little different. That's okay, that was like one of my examples was
Oh.
well, that was my example of the difference. So we could have so one example would be like a true love like okay, let's use Heartless Hunter as an example. That's like this girl is trying to decide is she going to be with one or the other brother.
Mhm.
But then you have like the books like The Selection, or you have like, for example, The Rose Bargain, which is a newer version of like the Bachelor type of thing where she's not claiming to love them all, or they're all, in these cases, it's a man and then women contestants.
Mhm.
But the guy is not claiming to love them all, but one may be more beneficial to his position, if that makes sense. Like, where he's like, I love this person, or she's like, I love this person, but this person is who my parents want me to marry, or
Mhm.
that kind of love triangle. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
she doesn't have feelings for both, but she's like,
Yeah.
I should marry this prince because that's going to be beneficial to my kingdom. And
Mhm.
then, but I love this
That's
person.
also like Bringing Down the Duke. Do you remember that book?
Yes,
Like
I love that book.
historical fiction where
Oh, that was with him though, right?
yeah, yeah. Like
He had a love
he
triangle and people did not like that. I saw some
He was,
reviews that were like he's garbage.
yeah, see? And he, in that book, he is a duke. She is not. I don't think she
Yeah,
has
she
any
had
position.
no status.
And it would like ruin his entire future, pretty much, like his everything, like whatever. And so yeah, that is interesting. I had not even considered that as an option, but I see that for
Is
sure.
that a love triangle
I
though?
mean,
Or
I
is
don't
that
know that
just,
it
I
would
don't
be,
know.
I don't know that people would classify it as a love triangle, but I think it makes sense. It makes sense. I
Yeah,
accept it.
but you could think, I was gonna say no. Heartless Hunter is that because but technically she did not love both. There was no like loving both. You know what I mean? Like Alex was the friendship.
I think it just has three parties involved because also
It doesn't matter what the case is. Yeah.
Like Twilight, you just have that conflict where it's like, will they be with this person who is better for them? And I guess it's kind of like what you were saying, where it's like Jacob would have been better for her, but like she didn't love Jacob like that. So, like I don't I love triangles because I think I love them because they make me feel something. So either they make me feel like angry or they make me feel like
Mm-hmm.
stressed or they make me feel like, oh my gosh, like they like I'll text Hilary all the time, like I'm so stressed out. Like with Heartless Hunter, I was like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm so stressed out. But like those are my favorite books when I'm like feeling the angst of who are they gonna pick and why.
And so, okay, we talked about the difference of a man and a woman. I mean, it's true, and I don't know that it should be that way, but we do tend to give women, as women, I would say we tend to give other women more leniency than men. Um, where like the same behavior in a man would be
Mm,
characterized as like you are a womanizer. You are a, I'm
mm-hmm,
trying to think of what slur basically to a man. Um,
mm-hmm,
these bad things. But then a woman usually would be characterized as like you have sexual independence and you are not being tied down to the patriarchy.
yeah,
It's kind of interesting that double standard of sorts, which, if you could disagree with me, that's okay. We can disagree. But I do think because you said like it's for women. And so usually, not always, but usually when this happens, the woman is viewed as in a favorable light,
mm-hmm,
as an understanding. And if you see the man acting in this way, it is viewed in a negative way. It's not called a love triangle. It's like he's a creep, he's two-timing you, he's a womanizer, whatever. So
like
it's
a
kind of interesting.
playboy, yeah,
A player, yes.
yeah,
Yeah, so that's kind of interesting too. You don't see it very often with men because I think of that stigma. I mean, whether he is that or not, I don't know. But I just think the way the light it is written in, if that makes sense, it's double
mm-hmm.
standards. So,
Okay, so I have a list of pros and cons.
okay.
So it's funny that my pro list is very short. I just like, again, like I like the feelings. I think it can add a lot to a story. I think it works really well. I think it works especially well in fantasy books. And
Yes.
someone mentioned this on Instagram that in fantasy books, it can give you more of a longevity kind of.
I think it's an external conflict that it provides.
Yeah, and it gives you like it's not like, okay, book one, we have our end game, and then now we have to create misunderstanding, or now we have to create them fighting and like
Mm-hmm.
dumb things that we don't care about. And or
Mm-hmm.
sometimes it just gets boring, like on TV shows. Whenever the characters get together too quickly, it can be like, well, that's what we were the whole time. We loved the pining and like the journey of getting there, and now they're together, and now what? Like now
Yeah,
where do we
like
go?
you girl, like Jess and Nick.
Yeah, like Gilmore
Like once they
Girls.
kiss, you're like, okay, so they have to break up. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. So I think it gives you that like wiggle room in fantasy because again, in fantasy, you have typically they're not standalone. So like you're gonna have a series and it works to me, it works really well if you have that early. Now, on the flip side, a con would be if it drags too long. And this was a common response that I do agree with, that if the love triangle is dragging too long, it gets annoying and gross. And then you just start getting mad at like your likability factor goes down for the
Like
characters.
Bella and Twilight.
Bella, yeah, I would say that's a good example. And but at the same time though, I do think that Bella, yeah, it did drag. It did
I think
drag.
New Moon was acceptable, but once we hit
Yes.
into
She's engaged.
Eclipse, and then I would say Eclipse. Eclipse
Yes.
when it's like she was insufferable. You're like, okay.
Yes. You're like, pick one. And then someone else said, a lot of people said, when physical stuff starts happening with both love interests, it gets gross. I do see that
Yeah, like she's kissing Edward, she's kissing Jacob.
Jacob, yeah, nasty. And then additionally with that, there's loss of respect for the parties involved. I said this. So there was a book that I was reading that I'm not going to name it because I don't want to spoil it. So you're not going to know what book I'm talking about. I'll edit it out. So this series has a love triangle that spans 3 books, and it's still like it is still going. And at one point, this person is married to one of the love interests and then is still like conflicted. And I'm just like, I'm done with you. And not only am I done with you, I'm also like done with the men involved. You have no self-respect at this point that you're like, this is what you accept?
The crumbs.
Yes. Gross.
So is that your con? Your con is when it goes too long?
Yes. You're being rude. Like the character is being insensitive of everybody involved.
I guess like okay, so for me, wait, do you have any more cons?
Oh, the last one I have is a lot of people said if it involved brothers, which apparently is really common.
But you didn't, do you feel that way? Because Heartless Hunter was brothers.
Okay, no, I have a ton of love triangles that I have really, really liked that involve brothers, and the only time that I don't like it is whenever they're flirting with the lady in front of each other.
I don't know that I read a lot like that. I don't know.
I DNF'd the book that had that, so I didn't like it.
I know I have read some like that, but I can't think of any at the moment. Okay. So me, the pro, like I said, external conflict. I love that. And usually now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, I tend to like more, less of like Bella, like I love both and I just can see my future with both and I just can't pick. That becomes very angsty, but I like more, like I was saying, I don't know what to pick. Like they're both hard choices. This is where my heart's taking me, but I'm moving or I'm like in a fantasy. I have my parents are forcing me to marry this person or stuff like that. So I like that stuff. I think it adds a lot of tension. And then I think it presents like the opportunity for like Heartless Hunter, that series, to be like one man to stand up. Like you usually see one step in and be like, you know what I mean? You see one back off and like, or not make the right choice, like very clearly, where he's like, oh, I don't want to spoil. I'm gonna spoil a series for you guys. I mean, I don't think it's gonna spoil it for anybody, but I'm talking about a Sarah J. Maas series. So skip ahead 30 seconds if you don't want to hear this. In A Court of Thorns and Roses, we see that conflict a little bit where I'll be vague. One character is presented with some issues and you see how he responds and he's very passive, very just like, you go figure it out, you go sit in your room and color. And then you see someone else that's like, no, let me help you. Let me help you learn and or like let me defend you. That's my woman. I care about. I don't know. It presents a stage for growth, if that makes sense. And I like to
Yeah.
see, in Heartless Hunter, we got to see like, my favorite line is like, get your hands off my wife. And then you're like, okay, like now we see that the jealousy in it, and I don't always love jealousy, like, but when it's done right, I love that. Not just like I'm gonna be bitter and gross, but whenever jealousy spurs you to be like, no, that's my husband. Like, I actually care what happens to my marriage. Another one, um, I guess it's not a love triangle, but they talk about dating a little bit in what's that book? Bromance Book Club. Like they're about to get divorced and they're talking about her going out on dates again, and it was good for, I think, for her husband to be like, I don't like it. I don't like my wife dating other men. I like it. It like spurs sometimes some good behavior. I think I like, yeah, anyway, that's it. Um, I enjoy it. I enjoy seeing someone fight for someone, literally or metaphorically, either one. So, physically, usually in a fantasy,
Mm-hmm.
and then metaphorically, usually in a contemporary. But I love it. I love that tension or the realization like, man, if I don't get my act together, I'm going to lose this person. I love that. The con is sometimes when, like you said, it goes too far. So, like, there's a good, healthy jealousy, or like, wow, I'm going to lose my marriage. I'm going to lose my, like someone's going to come for my wife if I don't get my act together. Or I love that. It can become icky and gross. And is what like some of your people were telling you. Like, it's hard to distinguish where that line is, but I think it starts to become where if someone's like, I'm actively pursuing both people equally, it starts to become a little icky to me and gross. And that kind of leads to what I know someone talked to you about, like, what's the difference between a cheating trope, which I didn't know cheating was a trope, but cheating and a love triangle.
I
So,
mean, I don't know the line because, well, okay, so somebody said that if there has been like a love triangle doesn't include like a defined relationship. So,
yeah, I agree with that.
and once you've defined the relationship, then it becomes a cheating situation.
Hmm.
And so that's the thing too, though. I was looking at my files, my notes for books, and I searched like the keyword love triangles, and so many of them would fall under cheating because like Christmas ones, think of like Christmas books where you have someone in a like
Like
they're
Hallmark, classic Hallmark movie.
yes, they're with a jerk and then they're falling
Hmm.
for Christmas tree farm guy or whatever.
Hmm.
Cheating. And me, I can enjoy that. I mean, I I can enjoy the book. I'm like, do I endorse the behavior in real life? No. But I enjoy it because in like all of the books that I had that mentioned, I didn't list it as cheating. I don't know, guys. Go ahead, sue me.
Okay. It doesn't bother me either. Like, but there's again, there's a difference, and it like we can get into this probably for hours, but there's a difference to me in like there's a book, Broken Country, that's first of all not a romance. It does have a trigger, quote, for infidelity, but it's not a romance. Like nothing about the situation is shown in a good way. It's never shown like it shows the fallout of everything. So, and like the character, I don't want to spoil anything, but when you look back on the situation, you're not like, and that was a wonderful idea. Like you're like, this was a bad choice and this is the fallout of it. So versus
Yeah.
I'm bored in my marriage and I'm gonna go get some and I don't care. My husband's at home sad and oh well, that's a totally different, I think, you know what I mean? A different
Hmm.
presentation of it. So I
Yeah.
think it is like it all in the way it is handled. Again, back to it depends on how it's written. And also like we as an author, you get to present your character in whatever light you want. And some characters are presented like very gross and like Bella.
Yeah.
It was very much like kind of gross how you could see that she was using. Now, that's what she intended to do, I think, was to use that's what the line was, but I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. You know another one I was thinking of just now? One True Loves or One
Yeah,
True
I
Love.
wrote that one down. Yes, for sure.
That one is where she's with somebody married. So he's gone. I mean, to her purposes, she thinks he's dead, right? Like, don't they like file
He is
him?
declared dead. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's like dead. Dead in like legally dead. And she moves on. And then he's not
She
dead.
gets
So,
engaged to someone else.
oh my God.
It's like this face this impossible situation. But it's a great book.
Both of them are like, no, I'm fighting for you.
Yeah. But that one's no like I wouldn't say that was like a happy book. It was like faced with this broken-hearted situation. It was emotional, but it's a great book club book. Great. Lots to discuss. Okay, so like on that topic, some love triangle books. So we talked about Twilight. We talked about you said The Selection, now One True Loves. Let me see. I have a few more. Hunger Games, I thought
Mhm.
kind of was with Peeta and Gale
For
with
sure.
Katniss. You don't really know where she's gonna go with that.
Hmm.
I already mentioned ACOTAR. An old one is The Notebook. Like that's a very
Yes,
older
someone
book.
mentioned that. Someone
And
mentioned that one.
that's a tough one too. Like it's like this
Cheating.
impossible choice. Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean it was.
Yeah, it was. What else? Oh, the Inheritance Games. That one came to me just
Yes.
now. I was like, oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
So is
brothers.
her other so is her other book, her other series is The
Yes.
Naturals.
Someone I didn't know, but someone did say that because I
Mm-hmm.
haven't read that one.
The Naturals is as well. It's very similar vibes as The Inheritance. I mean, same author, same vibes. And then I wrote Spark of the Everflame
Hmm.
is also one for sure with Henry and I'm
Luther.
like, well, yeah, Luther. I was like, Lucas. No, Luther. Um, Outlander, which is an older series. I know you haven't read that. That is, she's married and she goes back in time 300 years and
Oh no.
she ends up married to someone else and she is in that world like for decades, decades and decades.
Mm.
So it's very, anyway, it's funny how, yes, I like some people are like, oh, cheating trope. And I don't know. I think fantasy, that's what I was going to say. Sounds terrible. I'm like, we're dealing with a different world here, guys. I'm like, no one's time traveling back 300 years. Like, we're going to let stuff fly. Okay. That's just me. I mean, whatever, to each her own. But another book I was thinking of while we were sitting here talking, which I don't know if she's listening or not, Aaron Phillips' book, A Crown of Chains,
I thought that too.
is I'm not going to spoil it, okay? It is an interesting. I don't, and I know she might be like, that is not a love triangle, but it could be. I think it might qualify, and it's an interesting one. Like what I was saying, the example I gave earlier, that you're like, this one, this is my heart's choice, and this is what is for the good of the kingdom or whatever.
Mm.
And it is tough. It's like a tough
Mhm.
situation to be in.
Yeah. Which speaking of that, I won't say anything else, but The Wind of Walkers and Blades
Hmm.
by Kelly Farina, like I would say love triangle in a few ways, like in that way that you described, and then also just in like a traditional way. So I like that one a lot.
Yeah, that's on my list. I mean, those are like a lot of just examples. I feel like love triangles is like tale as old as time, guys. There's like, look at Cinderella.
Cinderella.
Well, yeah, I'm thinking of like Ever After. Like, there's like who your parents want you to marry, and
Oh.
then there's Cinderella.
Okay, and you haven't watched The Vampire Diaries. The Vampire Diaries is a love triangle, and The Vampire Diaries love triangle is gross. And I'm like, why do I enjoy this? I don't know. There's some things that I'm like, I'm a terrible person. Why is that enjoyable? I don't know, but I love it. If you know, you know.
I had to put myself on mute. My husband is addressing issues with my child.
Right now?
Yes, I was like, I think I hear my name. And I took off my headphones and I was like, why is she up right now?
Oh my
Anyway, so I
gosh.
wanted to address one thing really quick. This leads me to think what I'm not talking about that I love. The reason I read that book, Warrior Princess Assassin, or tried it, was because they said, I believe, this is like a love triangle. And I thought it was like, who's the girl gonna pick? It could be this one or it could be this one. No, turns out it was like she's not picking either one, she's picking both. It's a why choose. Um, I guess that's the trope. That is not what I'm talking about, just to be clear. And that to me is, yes, like far beyond the line of what I would like to read. But that was one book I did try because I thought it was a love triangle and I should have paid more attention to the description.
That one was an actual triangle.
Yeah, it went every which way. Every single person wanted every single person, and it was
Literally.
uncomfortable. And I'm like, that is not what I'm talking about. I
No.
DNF that book just for clarity's sake.
Yeah,
But
we want a love vector. That's what we want.
yeah,
We don't want a triangle.
I don't want everyone to be in love with everyone. That just starts to become gross. Yeah, no, it's like messy, messy, messy. Do you know where that's from?
Frosty.
Yes. So yeah, I'm like, that's not what we're talking about. That's not what I'm talking about. We're not even going to do an episode on that, guys. Don't even get your hopes up. We're not doing an episode on why choose trope. That's not going to happen. But that is being marketed now. So just be aware of that. That if you look on the back of a cover and it's like they're all, and if they say something like they're drawn to each other, you need to ask yourself, who's drawn to each other? All of them? So just be aware.
Oh my God, that's deceitful.
Yeah, yeah. I had some strong words for the publisher for that one. Um, anyway, yeah. So that's like, a intro course to love triangles. I'm gonna read a book next about Romeo and Juliet's daughter. And it's like a reverse telling, I guess, of that, assuming Romeo and Juliet, another love triangle, assuming they lived and got married and lived happily ever after and had a daughter. And
What is
yeah,
this book?
Daughter of Fair Verona.
Hmm.
It's on Kindle Unlimited. So, what are you reading next or now?
I'm officially reading Shadow and Bone. I feel like
Oh
I'm
yeah,
ready. I'm like, okay, I think I have enough mental capacity. So I'm gonna try. We'll see. And I did hear somebody said this had a love triangle, and that made me excited. I
it
was like,
does.
okay.
It
Oh,
does.
see?
That's another one.
Okay. Well, that gives me the boost I need to try it.
I think that one goes a couple books too.
Oh no.
Okay, so that's it for us. You can find me at Hilary Reads on Instagram,
And I'm at Hannah Reads.
and you can find our podcast on Instagram at Don't You Two Read Podcast. So let us know what trope you want us to cover next, or what book you want us to read next for our book club. So let us know. And let us know what you think about love triangles, if you hate them or love them.